There comes a time in every franchise's life where it officially hits rock bottom. That moment where fans and observers alike collectively agree it simply can't get any worse. And recently we all shared this very thought with Starfleet Academy. A series seemingly designed with the sole purpose of pissing off anyone who ever dared to form a letter V with their fingers and mutter the words "live long and prosper." The first handful of episodes were such a god-awful pile of garbage that even the biggest and most powerful trash compactor in the world would burn out trying to crush it. So un-Trek-like that you can't even classify it under parody, as that would require some self-awareness.
What the hell, it works on Star Trek.
The only viable explanation is that it must be an elaborate smear campaign to drive away one of the most ardent fan bases to ever exist by trolling them until they leave in order to replace it with who the fuck even knows. It's been said that if you love something, then let it go, and if it was meant to be, it will return to you. But truthfully with this, one can only hope that someone sees the twisted mess it's become and decides to finally put it out of its misery before it can even turn back around.
What we got back didn't live long, fortunately.
Especially considering that against all odds, somehow it's about to get way worse. We return to the Athena, or as it could be more accurately explained, the Federation's short bus. The mumbling queen of feet Nala is recording a captain's log about their current mission.
We're 3 days into our first official space flight.
I guess all that shit they did in episode 1 didn't count. Also, what the fuck has she been doing for the last 48 hours that she didn't bother to document a single event from this journey? With her track record, backing out of the driveway is an accomplishment. You'd think something of note would have happened with those standards. And apparently, despite this being her personal log, she decided to narrate it as if her students would be listening in.
I'm struck by its beauty. I'm struck by its very existence. This nebula was once a star. It makes me think of all of you, my cadets. All your life experiences, the decisions you've made.
Boring! Speaking of the future Federation fuck-ups, they are in debate class, which is being instructed by clearly the most qualified individual, EMH. Not really sure why a hologram doctor is giving this lecture instead of, say, a diplomat, but up to this point nothing's made sense anyway, so why start now? But let's see exactly what free speech is in the eyes of artificial intelligence.
With the first link, the chain is forged.
Starting out with an incorrect phrase, I see. 2 links are required at minimum to be a chain.
The first speech censured. The first thought forbidden irrevocably.
You know, considering the track record of real-world AI when it comes to suppression, this is actually spot on. Okay, continue.
Speech and debate is not for the chicken shit.
Damn!
Holy shit, truer words have never been spoken. Go on.
Are you allowed to talk like that?
Know that I have existed longer than your entire lineage. I have earned the right to speak as I see fit.
You lost me. Those are mutually exclusive statements. You cannot say that no one can be censored, then follow it up with having to earn the right to speak a certain way. Looks like we were giving these asshole word assemblers way too much credit, as they can't even keep their stance on the First Amendment consistent. Just wait until the inevitable guns are bad episode. But one thing that everyone should agree with here is that profanity is the goddamn spice of life and that everyone should fucking embrace it.
Here,
Especially you, guy in the comments currently typing about how I should ditch the potty mouth. EMH tells them to break off into teams, causing Jaden Smith to have a panic attack. Because he's a very sensitive type of Klingon who's shy and easily scared by public speaking. Though Caleb does attempt to encourage him.
I know you're the only shy Klingon in history, but you got some game, right?
Klingons do not do game.
I would like to submit to you Exhibit A. His name is Worf, and he sir had so much game that he landed this top-heavy hottie.
I do not play games.
The Klingons are basically the stand-in for black people in Star Trek. And it's very rude to disrespect my brothers out there like this.
you ain't black.
But come on, there must be some sort of societal tradition that you can fall back on to have some game.
We do complex and violent mating rituals that end in bloodshed and poetry.
Okay, you usually have to pay extra for that, but it's a start. EMH then teleports over to Durham because the latter is talking mid-lesson and hits him with an incredibly vague reference to the time that the former had to debate his own existence.
I won the right to be myself through argument.
They are assigned pairs to debate random topics with zero prep time, and Rayub is not only able to best everyone, but to do it without even breaking a sweat.
Amateurs motivate arguments with feelings, not facts.
And facts don't care about your feelings.
But the pre-warp era was continually in conflict. The War College is indeed a college, not a branch of the military. Therefore, it falls under Regulation 17, subsection 343.
Just remember, everyone, he's a dumpster diving orphan with zero formal education. Seeing as how he's breezing through opponents like Bonnie Blue, it's now time for Jaden Smith to step up. Though it looks more like he's gonna throw up, and EMH calls for a recess. Jaden asks how bad it was, and Caleb doesn't mince words, telling him it was a shit show. But he also questions as to why Jaden is having this level of stage fright because he's a Klingon and everyone is intimidated by his mere presence. Which really calls into question if Caleb needs glasses.
Over here, dear. Whoa.
Jaden then asks the question on all of our minds as to how exactly this motherfucker is a walking encyclopedia for Federation regulations.
In prison, you have to learn stuff to survive. Arguing is just another form of combat for me.
Oh yes, of course, because everyone knows that quoting Starfleet ordinances to dangerous and violent criminals is the ideal way to handle any altercation that one might encounter in prison. Surely, by explaining to them that they are breaking the law, you will sway all of those reasonable and falsely incarcerated men.
I know guys on crack that makes more sense than you.
Caleb starts opening food containers, and Jaden asks him if he started hoarding food under his bed again, despite the fact that Caleb has reprogrammed one of the dots to bring them lunch. Brushing off that question, Caleb offers Jaden some pizza, leading to an absolutely unthinkable travesty of justice.
No pepperoni. I will not eat anything that did not die in a fair fight.
First of all, it was made in a replicator, it's not even really meat. Secondly, even if it was, pepperoni is primarily made from pig, which are not exactly known for their powerhouse performances in the octagon. But this also implies that for the centuries that the Klingon Empire existed, that they never raised livestock. There is no way that every planet they conquered had the same fauna that could be hunted and consumed. This one line alone creates a logistical nightmare for an interstellar kingdom. Okay, so if you won't eat the food of the gods, what do you want then? The sky's the limit. Caleb just mentioned he reprogrammed the replicator. How the fuck did he manage to do that shit? To also create Klingon food, so how about some of that entrail soup?
That is warrior stew. Only those who have served their house in battle can taste it.
Okay, asshole. I'm not sure about your family, but if I did this shit, I'd be sent to my room with no dinner to starve. My parents did not fuck around.
My father and mother taught me better than that.
Did you just say fathers? Like, as in two dudes?
I grew up with 3 parents.
A triad house.
I get that your name is Jaden, but that doesn't mean your mother needed to cuck your dad. This is all starting to make a shit ton of sense.
Shit, man. Did it hurt? Yeah, motherfucker, it hurt.
He then goes on to explain how after the burn, the Klingons became an endangered species on the brink of extinction, and that he himself grew up in refugee camps. But before any of that story can be settled, Jaden is summoned to speak with Nala, who for once is actually wearing some fucking shoes. And without so much as a transitional scene or line, we are informed that his parents, all 3 of them, are thought to be dead after a disaster aboard a refugee transport. Nala once again proves to us how she's just the worst, as she doesn't even give him a minute to process what the fuck she just said before launching into exposition about his people's demise directly to his face.
There was a time before the burn when the Federation and the Klingons were allies.
Bitch, not right now. You don't think he already knows this stuff? Adding to the pile of shit that is Jaden's life at this exact moment, news reports begin playing about the destruction of Konosh as if it just happened, even though it was over a century ago. This would be like if we started getting breaking updates about the ongoing situation involving Abe Lincoln at the Ford Theater.
We're news too, only news told much, much later.
Returning to Nala, who is now with the Cunnilingus Conundrum Laura Thok, who if you recall not only bats for the other team, but is also a bullshit combination of half Jem'Hadar and half Klingon. Though she seems rather indifferent towards hearing about a transport containing a large percentage of what's left of one of her races that just blew up. She offers to allow him to take a week off from classes, which he refuses. Though I'm not sure exactly which one of these is weirder, him saying no or the fact that she only offered him a week after his entire family may have died. But he does mention to her that he said goodbye to them a long time ago, meaning it's time for a flashback where we meet Jaden's reverse Mormon family. We are first introduced to Thar, Jaden's brother and complete opposite, a true warrior and hunter, though he still has a softer side and understands why Jaden is a bit different. Next we meet his mother, who we'll call Jada considering the circumstances, who has made warrior stew for dinner, a meal that has already been established as one that Jaden is forbidden from eating, so we can just assume he's meant to starve. No wonder he wants to leave. Dad number 1 returns with a bow he is gifting to Thar because he too couldn't give a shit about Jaden. But Dad 1 does assure him that he will one day make a man out of him, whether he likes it or not. Which of course Jaden doesn't want, despite Dad 1's insistence.
I do not want a weapon.
Herbs and healing have their place, but they will not serve you if you are dead.
Out in the woods, Thar presents him with a Federation transmitter, which he found at a local trading post, and encourages him to consider joining Starfleet.
Your mind is hungry, Jaden. We should feed it.
Dude, he's not just hungry for knowledge. He hasn't eaten any food. Motherfucker is hungry all around.
Your destiny, little brother. It is not here. It is out there in the stars.
Back in the present, the class is told that they will have a debate this week, even though they haven't learned shit about how to do it yet. EMH asks if anyone has any ideas for the primary topic, and as they toss some around, one that we couldn't have possibly predicted is brought up. A topic which EMH would rather avoid, the plight of the Klingons.
Everyone knows they lost Kronos because they blew it up themselves. No.
How exactly? That's like blaming a tsunami on the people who live on the coastline. But Caleb does jump to Jaden's defense and tells whoever the fuck this guy is to back off with his shitty conspiracy theories. EMH does not believe it's an appropriate topic due to how close to home it hits, but Jaden insists that they use it.
Reality does not make it disappear.
The exact opposite stance most people take with herpes. In Nala's office, Admiral Vance still has no news on Jaden's family, though he does say that they discovered a planet within Federation space that is nearly identical to Konosh, but that the Klingons are being retarded and refuse it because it hasn't been conquered, so it's seen as an act of charity. Are we sure that this species is even worth saving at this point? They seem to be picking and choosing which traditions matter. If you are going to say that it is in their culture to not accept a new home that will effectively save their race because it wasn't earned, then you can't ignore that they have always been monogamous and mated for life when it comes to these triad families. Not to mention the Devil's Three-Way that is Jaden's parents does nothing to help repopulate their race at all. If this was reversed and it was two wives, it would make sense, but that doesn't play nice with their strange narrative of a female-focused future. And speaking of strong women, who is it that Vance believes is the ideal candidate to convince the Klingons that they need to stop being tards? Well, the Chancellor of Starfleet Academy herself, Nala. You see, she apparently used to fuck Obel Wojcik, who is the de facto leader of what's left of the Klingons. So she's just gonna turn up those feminine wiles, kick off her shoes, and get right up on that pole. You might be wondering how Vance even knows that Nala and Obel used to be down with the swirl.
No, and I don't care.
Well, apparently this is public information that's just in her personnel file, which he's just been reading for the last 7 years. Freaky! Nala agrees to go get deep-dicked so long as no one else knows. Though based on what was just said, it will probably need to be documented for future Starfleet admirals to have smut to read. Eyebrows and Caleb are heading toward the atrium, discussing exactly why Jaden is participating in a debate that he has such a personal connection to, believing it will only serve to harm his relationships and mental health. You know, a thing that Klingons are known to give a shit about. It's at this time that they run into Jaden, who was seemingly waiting for his cue off screen. Caleb suggests that the two of them pair up since he will also be taking the stance of Klingons accepting aid.
He's the best debater we got.
Master debater.
The future of Starfleet. Jaden refuses to accept this partnership as he surprisingly decided to take the other side and advocate for his own people's extinction.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
Caleb, of all people, questions as to why the Klingons shouldn't accept the Federation's help. This despite the fact for the past 3 episodes he's been the captain of the Anti-Federation Task Force. Is it just too much for a little consistency? Are we just meant to forget that he said this?
The Federation. They're the villain of my story too.
Jaden then says one of the absolute dumbest things ever muttered by a living being.
What, you don't think the Federation's protection would help your people?
There is no protection, not from loss. There never can be.
This is not nearly as deep as the word assemblers think it is. Gaining a goddamn planet to house your species on is the very definition of protecting from loss. Jaden then goes back to his room to think about the time where his brother got stabbed by a poisonous blade. You know, for a dude who claims to be an optimist, his thoughts are primarily negative. So far it's been like, hey, remember that time I was told I couldn't eat? And that other time I was called a piece of shit by my own father because I wanted to save lives? Now it's, let's think about the only person who ever seemed to care about me writhing in pain. Anyway, Thar was assaulted for attempting to procure a dermal regenerator, coincidentally the very thing that he needs at this exact moment. Jaden asks him if it's still at the market because as we all know, when you're being skewered, the first thing that comes to mind is to have the clerk check the back stock. Or maybe he's just assuming that Thar did that thing we all did as kids where we hid the cool action figure behind a tennis racket. But either way, he couldn't possibly know if someone bought it since he left. Before Thar can even tell Jaden how fucking stupid he is for asking such a question, Dad One comes along and puts the kibosh on the whole idea, saying that Federation tools are not for them. Totally cool with sacrificing his favorite son to stick it to the Federation and their silly life-saving tech. You know, since no Klingon has ever used Federation technology, no siree. Seeing as how Thar was fucked from Jump Street, he tells Jaden to trust himself and then dies. Because as previously stated, medical attention was necessary and praying to Kahless wasn't gonna do shit.
Well, duh.
Back in Nala's quarters, or as we should probably refer to it as the empathetic footlocker, Obel arrives to the smell of blood wine as he believes that Nala is attempting to get on his good side, aka his cock. Oh! Which she assures him she has never gotten over. It's very jarring to see them attempt to tackle a mature storyline, considering up to this point she's been more juvenile than any of her students. As they catch up, Nala does everything except unzip his pants. But Obel, being an actual proper diplomat, says that it would only complicate things. They were so close to a great scene, it almost sickens me. This should have been negotiations in spite of obvious tension, not ending because of it. Obel could have stated something about how he's never taken a mate because of his feelings for her. In turn, he is now viewed as not doing his duty to his house, damaging his reputation and weakening his authority as he's not doing his part for the repopulation effort. Though maybe he just needs to find the right woman who already has a husband. Nala shows him Fawn Alpha, the planet Vance mentioned earlier, and how she can think of no species more deserving of it. But since repetition is the most important thing to this show, Obel tells her that they don't do charity, even though she's trying to save him and his massive waning population. He calls her arrogant, a label she wears as a badge of honor, but that it means that there is no situation that they could see each other without ulterior motives. That even though she hasn't changed, he has, and that he will not dishonor his people just to save them because all they have left is their traditions.
That doesn't make sense.
But you could have a fucking planet. What value do traditions have if you're dead? The word assemblers are trying to write an intelligent interaction here, but it just comes off as two stubborn children refusing to share their toys. And in this instance, those toys are Obel's penis and a planet.
So many of them have already taken refuge in Federation space. Let us grant them, all of you, asylum.
Losh was not granted. You know this. Our houses will only unite over conquest.
Before Obel leaves, though, he's surprised to hear that Jaden is a cadet and vows to find out details about his family. Speaking of Jaden Smith, he's off practicing in his room and then suddenly he's not as Caleb attempts to give him some advice. But like everything so far with the Klingons, he declines it. Though you really can't unhear a tip once somebody says it to you. Caleb is also still confused as to why Jaden is offended that he offered a tag team on this one, which given the two dads thing, you'd assume he'd be all for. But Jaden says it was not an offer for collaboration, but that Caleb wanted to speak for him. Caleb reminds this idiot that just a day ago he was having a fucking panic attack over the thought of public speaking, and that he just wants to help him because they're so alike. But Jaden reiterates that their sacrifices are not the same. Well, yeah, you had 3 parents, he has 1.
We are not brothers.
This is literally the first time we're seeing any type of growth out of Caleb as he's caring about someone other than himself for a change. And it's being treated like he just kicked a puppy. This series has a serious issue with the messaging not matching the overall theme. And it actually just continues to get worse because an even larger issue that this show has is not realizing when enough is enough. We are not brothers is the crescendo sentence here. That should be the end, but they keep hammering a nail that's already fully inside the board.
Is that why it's so important for you to challenge me? You trying to teach me a lesson?
This is not about you, but if you happen to learn that lesson in defeat, it will be an added benefit.
You regurgitate facts about everything and everyone, but you have no understanding of what any of that means.
Rejoining Nala and Obel, they basically have the exact same conversation from before about how Nala refuses to change and Obel will do anything to help. But this time, they're drunk, so that makes it funny.
It was a glorious night.
The cops came. This wasn't in the cards for you.
You made it clear you'd never leave your ship.
Remember that orb that Thar gave to Jaden? I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. Well, Jaden is once again in his room trying to put it back together, which reminds him of the time that Dad One took him out on a hunt. The most sacred of Klingon traditions. So naturally, Jaden thought this is the ideal time to ask his father's permission to join Starfleet in order to study medicine that would have saved his brother's life. This goes about as well as you'd expect, as Dad One doubles down on how medicine technology is bullshit and doesn't save anyone. Especially not the very dead Thar.
This is an insult to our family. Starfleet has not bled for you.
Right.
Then, as if it appears out of thin, word-assembled air, a convenient bird of prey arrives, distracting the two of them. Dad One tells Jaden to take a shot with the regifted bow, but I'll give you one guess as to what the latter does. That's right, he says no. Dad One then snatches the bow and misses his shot, seemingly out of pure frustration with his disappointment of his son. This is the first instance, possibly ever, of a parent disapproving of their child becoming a doctor. It's the opposite of every Asian family you've ever met.
That's racist.
He then kicks the orb off the cliff, which forces Jaden to go retrieve it, as Dad One takes the rest of the family and fucks off in the Wagon Queen family truckster, abandoning Jaden on this planet. This dude is a really shitty father. Though a few questions are raised by this scene. Number 1, when Dad One got back, was there no discussion as to where Jaden was? Did Dad 2 and Jada just shrug their shoulders, except both sons are now dead and it's time to leave for no apparent reason? I hope at least one person gets that reference. Also, the appropriately named question 2 is, why the fuck is there a second dad to begin with?
Fuck if I know.
He has no bearing on the story being told. Thar and Jaden are both the biological children of Dad One. The presence of an additional male was just because. The guy didn't even get a single goddamn line. If there was 2 different mothers, it could have more effectively explained why Thar and Jaden are so different. Perhaps one is a female from warrior stock and the other is not. The last quandary is, how the hell did Jaden reach Starfleet? His communicator orb is smashed to shit. He's stuck in the middle of bumblefuck nowhere with no transport. Seems awfully lucky he was able to get in touch with and travel to the Athena in time for their first class. But don't worry about any of that shit, because we need to have some strange sequence of homoeroticism as Darum arrives in Jaden's room. At first it seems like they're gonna have a fist fight, but then they do whatever the fuck this is.
What the fuck?
With that permanent impotence inspiration scene done with, it's finally time for this damn debate. EMH welcomes everyone for joining them, which includes an extremely hungover Nala.
Competitors will challenge each other.
Each face-off is shown in quick succession as Caleb and Jaden is treated like some sort of main event. Even though EMH has no reason whatsoever to assume that Jaden is over his stage fright. Not to mention the fact that all of the drama has been self-contained, so no one who's watching even knows about it. The two of them trade talking points back and forth.
I'm here to affirm the resolution. My criterion is Federation law.
If engaged in diplomatic relations, Starfleet officers need not contradict alien morality.
There's stardate 2314. The USS Origin saves the Lin species from extinction via relocation.
Vulcan versus Caw concedes that mortal danger is a matter of subjective perception.
But after a while, it goes from civil discussion to legitimate personal attacks.
In the context of this debate, the Federation and their laws are irrelevant. Without self-definition, are Klingons Klingons? It is not the Federation's advantage or place to tell the Klingons who they are. Or yours.
Your argument implies that all Klingons must feel the same. I know a Klingon who's rejected the isolationism you say defines all Klingons, and now enjoys Federation-provided food, safety, and resources.
Define it for those who are willing to die for it.
Isn't that why you left your family? Because they were willing to...
You have no idea.
Forcing EMH to end the debate.
Both of you, out. You are done.
Since we haven't been in Jaden Smith's room enough today, let's go back there where he's joined by Blue Muff Diver Laura Thok. She tells him about her nonsensical family and how she and her Kling-Hadar brothers used to fight all the time. And because Jaden is apparently unable to grasp the concept of family not always being blood, again states that Caleb is not his brother. And how he is dishonoring both worlds by not only failing as a Klingon, but not even knowing what type of officer he can be. Because she's clearly brain dead, she finally makes the connection that she should have been acting as his Klingon elder from the start, as she could have helped him discover what kind of Klingon he is. I mean, it's not like it's her job as a teacher to help the cadets improve or anything.
No! This class is about me!
She continues to say everything that she shouldn't, such as how Jaden's father abandoning him was a good thing. Though she does prove that even a blind squirrel occasionally does find a nut by saying something kinda deep.
You must see yourself as he did, and as your brother did. A warrior not with weapons, but words.
Once again, nearly a good scene. This could have had so much more punch if they emphasized that she went through a similar discovery period due to her shared heritage, and that she now considers this a failure of duty as she didn't realize sooner that she could have helped him. Ever the optimist, Jaden asks why any of this even matters as there's no hope anyway. Thok then tells him about Fawn Alpha and the failed offer, which reinvigorates him to get back on the debate stage, where he goes on to deliver what the script and actor try to pass off as a heartfelt speech about the Federation meeting the Klingons in their own terms. Because apparently beggars can be choosers and that battle is the only language that will honor each faction. Well, long story short, what this translates into is that they will basically LARP a massive dogfight with live fucking ammunition. But with the small caveat of not actually telling the Klingons that it's fake. Jaden is brought in and questions his own goddamn plan mere moments after he pitched it, but according to Captain Twinkletoes,
the Federation thinks it's worth the risk.
Oh shit. There goes the planet.
They are literally gambling with the future of Starfleet by sending college kids on a possible suicide mission thought up by an autist Klingon. You cannot make this shit up.
You silly sods.
It almost feels like they're attempting to create some weird new Kobayashi Maru-style training exercise, but forgot it should be a simulation. It actually reminds me of that scene from Child's Play 3 when Chucky loads one of the paintball team's guns with real bullets, but multiplied by like 100,000. But fuck it, let's see how this insanity plays out.
Starfleet vessels hold fire.
We seize this planet as spoils of war.
That was it? All of that foreplay for 30 seconds? It was obvious that Long Dong Obel figured out the plan, but how did the rest of the Klingon houses fall for this shit? There is absolutely no way that a group of warriors would not be able to discern a real fight from whatever the hell that was. One would assume that this would actually insult them further, but I guess they're just cool with it because they seize Fon Alpha in the name of the Klingon Empire. Obel then beams onto the bridge of the Athena, and to Nala's chagrin, he's still wearing clothes. He hands Jaden the bow from earlier in the episode, honoring him as a warrior, even though he just sat like a goof during that bullshit sparring match. Obel also tells him that his family is safe, so why the fuck didn't you bring them here?
You ask a lot of questions.
I think receiving that bow from Dad 1 would have been infinitely more meaningful than someone he's never fucking met before.
I don't even know who you are.
Jaleb sit down to a meal together, with Jaden finally getting to try some of that delicious looking entrail stew, or as we call it on Earth, haggis. Fucking Scottish people. Caleb hands him the communicator orb fully repaired because at some point he found time to fix that shit, even though he had no idea it existed.
How did you even know?
I had some help from a Kionian who stopped being a dick for a day.
Need I remind you that Darum nearly died to save them all in the very first episode, and is the only character that's shown any type of consistent growth in this show. Jaden tells Caleb that it was a gift from his brother and that he reminds him of Thar, which is why he wasn't sure if he could have both of them live in his heart. Which, for a guy who has two dads he's supposed to hold equal respect for, makes very little sense. Caleb finally explains why he hoards food, and it's because his mother told him they would try them together one day. Which is just another retarded thing since they have replicators and they can just make new food when and if that happens. No need to keep moldy, disgusting leftovers under your bed, bro. Just saying, I'm not sure she's gonna really like that 6-month-old slice of pepperoni pizza you've been keeping for her. He also says that the reason he starts shit is to drown out her memory, which is the exact opposite of saving stuff for her. Make up your damn mind. You can't simultaneously try to remember and forget someone.
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
As the two sit and stare into the nothingness of space, they listen to the thrilling recruitment message from the orb as the episode fades to black. Hey there, ladies! Are you just too much woman for one man to handle? Have you had little to no success with Hinge, Tinder, or Bumble because they keep pairing you with those lame monogamous losers who would rather you didn't get plowed while they're at work? Well, grab your phone and get the one app in hand that's worth it. Introducing Two in the Bush, the first and only dating app specifically designed to pair you with two compatible guys both willing to be consistently cucked. You might be asking yourself, how exactly have you been able to gather so many beta males into one system? And the answer is that we didn't. Using a sophisticated algorithm, we have scoured the various other applications and automatically added anyone who has been deemed too compliant to say no. So you can rest easy knowing that whoever you get paired with will never question your arrangement. So download Two in the Bush and find your soulmate and your other soulmate. Because even though you might be a strong, independent woman, sometimes you need a man. Or two. This particular episode opens up in a rather uniquely annoying way. With series acclamation Mill, aka Sam, aka Deep Fried Drumsticks, asking if anyone in the audience can understand her crazy story. And trust me, you don't want to. They also decided to cross out the CBS logo and replace it with "A Story About Me" in giant childish letters. Because as we've already established, everyone in this fucking school is a self-centered prick. But at least the choice of font lets us know what to expect here.
Captain's log. Just seen some aliens. OMG, WTF, LOL, smiley face.
Yeah, that's not funny.
Drumsticks is walking around being over the top with retarded expressions, acting as though everyone absolutely loves her. When in fact their body language is actually similar to how we feel about this abomination they are trying to pass off as a character. She explains that in history there has only ever been one of her.
Isn't that amazing?
Actually, what's far more amazing is that your creators didn't pull the plug on your server yet. Especially considering she mentions that she's only 217 days old, which is about 18 dozen too many. Created on the planet Kask, she is the only photonic cadet in the academy. A word that they make sure to define on screen for all of us morons who didn't take 5th grade science class. For some strange reason, everyone she encounters seems to have a unique name for her.
Salmon Hammer.
Samura. Jinsaz.
Samburger.
Funny how we have not seen this a single time up to this point. Also strange that they have all dropped their serious and brooding natures for this one scene.
Queen Sam, Samalina. Of Samonita.
What is this?
Actually, that's a good question. What the fuck is even going on with all this shit? Well, it turns out that Drumsticks is Kask's future envoy, or emissary, to the Federation. Another word they feel needs to be defined for anyone dumb enough to still be watching this show.
Like you? Oops.
You know, come to think of it, this is probably a smart move, all things considered. By the way, she uses the words unique and emissary about 500 times in this episode, which I originally intended to make a drinking game for, but after passing out I decided it was better to just finish the video. She continues down the hallway, giving us the rundown of all the unsurprising standard shit she will be expected to be proficient at.
Maintaining peace, diplomatic relations, resolving conflicts.
But does mention that conflict resolution is the hardest one because she's learning how weird and chaotic organics can be. And this is especially problematic for her since her primary directive is to observe living beings for her makers. For the sake of not being repetitive myself, this will be the last time I point out that they tell us what a word means, and this time it's organic. But just remember that this is what the word assemblers think about your level of intelligence. The makers are also light-based beings who have never left their planet, which explains why they had zero understanding on how to make a spyware that could just do its job and not irritate literally everyone around it. So since her mission is so fucking important, let's see what she's been able to gather from this fine crop of the best that Starfleet has to offer. For one, it turns out that Darum doesn't understand his own dietary requirements.
Darum hates bananas. His species overproduces polyphenol oxidase, causing high potassium foods too.
Just a reminder that they created this species specifically for this show, and these are the traits that they gave them. During her weekly report to the makers, who for some reason she reacts as if this is the first time she's spoken to them, they want her to explain her course selection. Then, because this was deemed the correct character to give the ability to break the fourth wall to, she tells us about her music elective. As we're forced to suffer through her playing a theremin, she explains that her people were created to be servants.
Not good.
No shit.
And that after the organics left Cask, the makers became sentient and built a society. But despite craving interactions with other species, they are afraid of once again being used.
Which would be bad.
No shit.
Her music instructor asks her why she chose the theremin, to which Drumstick says that it's because it seemed cool. Even though it's obvious that the teacher wants to know the deeper meaning behind choosing it and how it makes Sam feel. I wish there was another student there that chose drums, and when they were asked the exact same question, they were just like, I enjoy hitting things.
1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4.
But let's be honest with ourselves, the only reason why the theremin was even chosen is because it could be used for the theme song. The makers believe that this is irrelevant towards understanding if it's safe to open their world to others. Even though music is incredibly important to culture and can tell you a ton about people. Can't wait till they discover the concept of death metal. She continues to explain the unpredictable nature of organics, once again using Darum as an example. You see, he's unilaterally decided to draw a line down the center of the atrium to split between Starfleet Academy and War College. The nameless Vulcan cadet says that this is primitive, and the Asian five-head tells him that they're only there because of the prank war. However, this does raise a question as to why the hell War College and Starfleet Academy share so many things. Sure, their dorms are fucked from Vetus Reflux, but do they not have their own atrium gym or anything else for that matter? They were using all of that shit before the plant incident. War College seems like less of an institution and more like a major you can opt into. By the way, this yo-yo style of word assembly with Darum is really starting to get out of hand. He flips from douchebag who has learned absolutely nothing to good dude willing to help anyone seemingly at the whim of whatever the scene needs. Well, as he keeps trying to shoo away the War College cadets, we notice that Jaden is talking to our boy Kyle, who I'd like to assume is trying to figure out where he could score a dime bag, though we all know where this is going. Then Tig Retardo walks over and picks up the laser light that Darum was using to separate the sides, rendering this entire scene pointless. Speaking of pointless nuisances, back to Drumstick's pursuit of knowledge about the unknown, and in this case, it's desire. Too bad she wasn't around when Nala was trying to get that dick in the last episode, because that was a treasure trove for Data on the subject. As for right this minute though, Caleb is busy creeping on Tamira, and Drumsticks asks him why they won't just talk to each other.
Are you ashamed to ask for sex?
This is unfortunately the closest thing we're likely going to get to a Data moment in this show, though he would have a bit more tact and nuance. Sam also asks Tamira the same question, getting the age-old answer that it's complicated.
Is it though?
Guys, you just go to different schools. You literally share gym showers. Just fuck already. Since reading pheromone levels and trying to get two people to play hide the salami isn't getting the information they need, the makers force Drumsticks to take a course in confronting the unexplainable, despite the semester being nearly over. Which is news to us because they've taken all of 4 classes, one of which involved snot. Standing alone in the classroom, she looks over all the subjects and hones in on one of particular interest. Which sounds less like a class and more like a conspiracy book club about one of the most beloved characters in franchise history. And one which she is only drawn into because Sisko is listed as an emissary, so they are samesies. Isla, the professor of said unexplainable confrontations class, tells her that in order to even take it, she would have to catch up on basically everything within a day because they are already at midterms. Sam responds that it won't be a problem since she learns things instantly, further confusing us as to exactly why this bitch is even taking up a seat at all, seeing as how she could just Matrix upload that shit.
I know Kung Fu.
They have created a literal plot device and have no idea how to use it. We get a quick rundown of what an absolute unit Sisko was.
Instrumental in ending the Dominion War, where he saved billions of lives. Oh, and he also discovered late in life that he was created by godlike aliens and...
Can it be why I study him? I've never known another emissary.
Does this moron not realize she is surrounded by emissaries? Every single cadet representing a world rejoining the Federation is one. It's essentially a meaningless title in this context. It's no different than anyone being able to call themselves a content creator or a YouTuber. And I know this because I get to put that shit on my resume for whatever the fuck this channel is. But since Isla is clearly over Sam's BS, she tells her that if she can solve the mystery that is Sisko, she doesn't need to take the class, she'll be able to teach it. But being able to download any piece of knowledge in a nanosecond isn't enough. So Drumsticks asks all the main cast to gather whatever info they can about the fate of Sisko for her. But to make sure to do it off screen since, you know, this episode's about her. Can't be having no scenes of other people, no sir. She then proceeds to tell us a very bare-bones version of the story with what looks to be a children's book. Right off the bat, we can tell that this project is making no sense to her, as the entire point is for her to discover all of this on her own and experience his life vicariously. But I mean, she's a mere AI hologram, how could she possibly do it all on her own? For the third time, we're reminded that emissaries are important, just before Jaden asks for some background info in the dumbest way that a person could possibly speak.
Pause, please. Define profit in this context.
Since I personally would like to treat you all as being significantly more intelligent than the word assemblers believe, we will skip the recounting of Deep Space Nine as I'm sure a majority of you already know that shit. It's legitimately terrible exposition anyway, as they have no visuals from DS9 or even pictures from her pop-up book. Just her yammering on for what seems like forever. Jaden being Jaden says this is cut and dry, Sisko is clearly dead, and Eyebrows brings up her father again for some fucking reason, because she can't go a single episode without mentioning him. In this instance, he apparently told her that Sisko's body was never recovered. And Darren points out that it's been over 800 years, so of course the dude's dead. Not like Sisko was dealing with forces outside of our understanding of reality or anything. Sam states that she needs to solve this mystery because she wants to be a great emissary like Sisko was. I hope that this dumbass realizes that he was the exception and not everybody that holds that title is expected to sacrifice themselves. Though if she really wants to, I ain't gonna stop her ass. Darren is the only one who says something even remotely intelligent as he calls Sisko Schrodinger's captain, existing in a state of being both alive and dead at the same time, and that the mystery is the point of all of this. So like, episode over, right? Wrong. Actually, this fucking scene isn't even over yet, as it's Caleb's turn to put in his 2 cents.
Guys like this always end up dead for telling people what they don't want to hear, or for doing crap jobs nobody else will do.
This continues to drag on until somebody finally points out that there's a goddamn Bajoran club on campus and she could just go talk to them directly. And off she goes, only to find out that it's more like a yoga club populated by Bajorans, which is practically useless to her as they just sit around and meditate. And she needs concrete evidence, not this superstitious mumbo-jumbo. But she does tell them that it's great that they have religion, even though it's nonsense. Also, apparently off-screen, she was pulling on someone's ear and screaming to prove Sisko was alive. It's so weird the things they choose to cut for no reason whatsoever from scenes, as it may have been funny to see her freak out and land her ass in Nala's office. But instead they just cut directly to Drumsticks saying how she misread the situation. I'm sorry, in what scenario is that the expected response? Nala explains that the Bajorans have begun treating Sisko as if he was the Prophet Muhammad, and don't even allow pictures of him to be displayed, believing he's transcended human form.
Like a god, like a man, like a prophet.
Nala brushes her off by saying that in order to understand Sisko, she must first learn about herself. Based on her body language, it's very obvious that Nala has something very important to do and needs Sam to get the fuck out. But does let her know about the Sisko Museum, which unfortunately does not play the thong song when you enter it.
Let me see that thong.
So what exactly is this hyper-important thing Nala has to go deal with?
Don't know, don't care.
Well, it turns out the entire power grid has gone down because Chancellor Kelrick is heating up a nearby lagoon connected to the Pacific Ocean. Why, you ask? Well, because soon they will be visited by special guests, the Alpharetti, who need a very specific water temperature and parameters. But not for themselves, no, that would make fucking sense. It's for their pet worms. I will repeat that shit. Kelrick is heating up the ocean for extraterrestrial worms. Because of course he is. Let's just ignore the fact that for the Alpharetti to even get said worms here, they would need to presumably at minimum have a tank they can all live in. But let's just fuck up our ecosystems on behalf of them, why don't we? Does anyone remember the last time the Pacific Ocean was screwed up in this franchise? Well, you'd assume the word assemblers would at least, since they literally put the goddamn descendants of the whales from that movie in this fucking show already.
Did IQs just drop sharply while I was away?
Kelrick mentions that he will be personally hosting the Alpharetti and needs to prepare for their traditional dinner. Nala agrees to help him as she feels bad that the Vetus reflux is currently in their off-gassing stage, meaning that they are now farting fungal plants that talk. You know, why not? But she does reiterate that she believes it's important that they set a better example for the cadets by trying to not be enemies. Remember how Nala told Drumsticks to go check out the Cisco Museum? Well, she does, though not really. Rather than actually go to it, she has the holodeck bring it to her. Her primary mission is to understand organic beings, and when the Chancellor signs off on leaving the school to actually go interact with some that aren't cadets, she doesn't even take the opportunity. No wonder she sucks at this. It's especially baffling because she could pretty much teleport wherever she wants, whenever she wants. So it wouldn't have even taken time to travel there. But I guess let's make do with this facsimile instead.
Please select your topic of interest. The Cisco was created by the prophets to be their emissary to the people of Bajor. So his path was predetermined long before he was the emissary.
What, we just had to do what we're told?
This is one of the original orbs. It enabled users to feel connected to the prophets and communicate with them.
She grabs the orb and goes full retard by trying to contact Cisco with it, completely forgetting the small detail that these aren't the real fucking artifacts. How the hell did she expect this to even work? Since we haven't heard her mention her emissariness in a few minutes, she brings it up and also asks how she could succeed at her mission. Again. I swear these episodes could be short enough for TikTok if you took out the repetition. Since it was never going to give her an answer because it wasn't real, the orb goes dark and she's left with the only exhibit she hasn't looked at yet, the Cisco family tree, where she discovers that he had a son. You'd think she would already know this since she downloaded his fucking biography, but I guess it wasn't worth mentioning in that.
What made your father a great emissary?
I didn't know him as the emissary. I knew a man that loved baseball, who would knock out a cue without thinking twice. I know his recipes, his passions, and the example he set for me as a father. And teach him how to make a mean gumbo.
Sam goes to find Professor Isla and tells her that she has processed every single piece of information she could find, but is no closer to solving the mystery. Which does not surprise the former, as she did warn Sam that it was a mystery that could not be solved. But Drumsticks refuses to believe that, and brings up Jake Sisko seemingly only talking about Ben's love for baseball and gumbo, which she believes is weird because this is of course the greatest emissary of all time we're talking about. You know, the most important job in the universe. The middle of this episode is so incredibly bland it's kind of difficult to even make fun of. Sam as a character is so one-dimensional at this point that she can't even fathom that a person is more than their job. And as a consequence of this word assembly decision, we get to keep living the same moment over and over again.
Is Cisco dead or alive?
No one knows.
Well, someone must know.
No, they don't.
Well, fuck you. I'm gonna go find out.
Wash, rinse, and repeat. Isla changes the topic, asking Sam her stance on the Great Tomato Debate, which surprisingly isn't whether or not it's pronounced tomato or tomato. It's whether or not it belongs in gumbo. Because Ben learned to cook in his father's restaurant, he was firmly on Team Tomato. So much so that he grew tomatoes in his quarters. And with that, I believe that I've used up my tomato quota for this video, so I'll be switching to tomato from now on. Sam, being the retarded computer program that she is, needs it all spelled out for her. And it's that she cannot solve this with facts alone. Emotions such as love, the core essence of what makes a person, is needed to find the answer. Because Cisco is full of that shit. Sam's still stuck in the same loop she's been in all episode, once more requests to join Isla's class, and for the third time is denied. As the professor instead would rather eat a tomato in the manner of which a sociopath would.
Gross.
Since photons can't actually taste anything, Sam is gonna need everyone else's opinion on if gumbo should or shouldn't have tomatoes. Meaning that all of what was just told to her went right the fuck over her head. Though Jaden Smith does confirm that the replicator at least got something right.
My mouth is on fire, and I never want it to go out.
As a fan of Cajun food, I approve of this reaction. Rayleigh tells Sam that some the fuck how he can override her programming so she can experience flavor. Even though that makes no goddamn sense at all.
It's an easy fix. One line of dialogue.
Thank God we invented the, whatever device.
So using her console commands, he begins screwing around with her BIOS and doing things like turning her hair purple and making her clothes change. Thank Jesus he didn't make them disappear. But he realizes he needs to do some more research before he can do it properly. Which marks only the second time this motherfucker has failed in this entire series so far. And in both instances, it wasn't while he was doing anything of importance. As for the rest of the crew, what information have they gathered for the group project they didn't sign up for?
He's a renowned author. Rumor is he was writing a book on Slim.
But no one seems to know if he ever finished it.
I know a cadet bar where Cisco used to hang out. Then he got punched there by a Vulcan once. There's a cadet bar here? Kind of.
Technically, what's currently on the property is a different, completely unrelated bar called the Academy. But you know what? Fuck it. If there's an excuse to do some research with tequila, you take that opportunity any day of the week. And luckily for them, Eyebrows has already been there.
How am I finding out this late that you're cool?
Not sure if she could be defined as cool in the traditional sense, but let's not forget that she didn't turn you in for breaking the rules on day one. So in your eyes, she should have always been cool. Before they can leave for a night of drunken debauchery, or as I like to call it, streaming with the critical drinker, Drumsticks is pulled into a conversation with the makers who are livid with her, and she's not too happy with them either. And since we're all pissed off at the show, no one is happy in this entire equation at all. They tell her that if she fails her mission, she will be forced to return home and contact with organics will cease forever. But to her credit, she actually pushes back, saying that it's their fault for plopping her here on hard mode as an annoying overweight ADHD patient with no understanding of the world. The makers don't care about any of this, and because Cask has seemingly the same day length as Earth, give her 1 week to accomplish her mission or she will be withdrawn from Starfleet Academy. A thing they really wouldn't need to do because she'd still be an observing spyware. She would just be a program that turned out to be not quite as useful as originally anticipated. Not like she's harming their existence or clogging up server space on their planet. This would be like deleting solitaire off of your computer hoping to speed it up. Also, they really shouldn't be surprised at her struggles to get close to people. They somehow created the single most annoying person possible and sent her on a socialization mission. The only way she could get worse is if after the gumbo scene she started preaching about veganism. Snapping out of it, she stands there frozen as Eyebrows calls her name, but all she can do is contemplate the short amount of time she has before what little life she gained is taken away. As with every character so far, a nugget of a good scene is here. You can't help but feel kinda sorry for her. Even though up to this point she's done nothing but piss us off. She asks them what happens in bars, which is kinda weird. She downloaded basically all of human history. Surely there's at least 1 or 2 stories from the last 10,000 years about someone hitting the sauce. Speaking of alcoholics, we cut to the college administrators who are hosting the faux dinner party to get Chancellor Kelrick ready for the worm lovers. A rehearsal, if you will, one where they do dumb shit like speak through a megaphone and get roles with seemingly the sole purpose of taking pop shots at Kelrick.
Kelrick is never funny.
Good thing I'm hilarious.
It's such a nothing burger that you'd be excused for thinking it was accidental footage of a table read that somehow slipped past the editors. But for some crazy ass reason, Holly Hunter is easier to understand while she's doing a shitty British accent.
Chancellor Amal.
Leaving one sad collection of people to join another as the cadets arrive at the academy. The bar, not the school. Rayla pulls Sam to the side and lets her know that he somehow figured out how to alter her programming to experience intoxication. How the fuck that makes sense is anyone's guess, but she wastes no time in getting immediately shit-faced.
That's too many shots.
Why is everybody so squiggly?
You know what? This show is taking such a toll on me, I'm gonna join them.
I'll never know if I was walking in the footsteps of the emissaries in this particular moment, so let's just say I did this for science. And Cask.
Hell yeah, for Casket. Just as we're having, what's the word? Fun. Yeah, F is for friends who do stuff together. Anyway, those War College bag of dicks show up and they're like, we fucking own this joint. Kyle, no, not that kind of joint. The establishment. Well, they're here to ruin my buzz. I'm way past buzzed. Hold on, I'm gonna go get unalcoholed. Okay, I'm back, and fun fact, bagels are really good for sobering up. And I'm about 6 bagels deep, so now let's do this shit. 5 head, and I still have no idea what this fucking dude's name is. Continue to be dicks, but Kyle is really into the varsity jackets. Stop, please, I'm begging you, stop. He's such a likable dude, don't do the thing you're gonna do. There is already enough LGBT representation. I mean, look at whatever the fuck this is.
I have other customers trying to enjoy the bar, so let's have a shot and play nice.
Tamira and Caleb are eyeball fucking each other again, and Sam, full of liquid courage, walks up and tells Caleb to stop being a pussy and just go talk to her already.
You fire booty, Mir.
You know what we really need though? More of that thrilling dinner party. I wonder what those crazy characters are getting up to now. Okay, Kelrick's playing a flute, and the chicken is a whoopee cushion.
What the fuck?
They all then laugh at Kelrick, who gets up and tells Nala she's full of shit and abandoned Starfleet when they needed her most. He then storms off. The funniest part is that he's supposed to be perceived as the asshole, but he's 100% right.
I should have known better. I was a fool to trust any of you.
We're having fun.
Can't be asked to take anything seriously for even an hour.
I'm actually okay with that description.
Back at the bar, Tamira and Caleb meet outside, and after some weird mini-study session about distance and perception...
Proximate distance relationship.
Tamira finally just decides she's gonna be the man in the situation and go for it. I don't blame her. This chick did everything but put a lit-up runway leading directly to her pussy. And motherfucker still didn't take the hint. Inside, Sam is really struggling talking to Genesis, and by that I mean she can't even pronounce her name right.
Genesis.
Did you call me Genesis?
Which made me realize that surprisingly no one called me out on the fact that since episode 2 I've been saying Tarima's name completely wrong. I am disappointed in all of you. Though it does show how little of a shit people give about this show. But Drumsticks tells Eyebrows that from what she could gather about Sisko, him being an emissary really just got in the way of the stuff he loved.
I bet the Celestial Temple doesn't even have shrimp and grits.
She went from fun drunk to depressed drunk in near record time. But in fairness, that is consistent with her lightning fast processing ability. After the conversation goes in circles for a few minutes, she jumps off the bar and returns to Silly Drunk before running onto the dance floor where Darum is hyper-possessive over Jaden Smith, as he feels the latter really shouldn't be trying to get into Kyle's pants. At least we agree on something. Kyle and his stonerness is the hidden gem of this series. He's so out of place in every scene to the point where it feels like he's in the wrong show. Like some weird pothead just wandered onto the set and rather than kick him off, they just handed him a uniform and kept the cameras rolling. So it makes sense that War College is trying so hard to defend him. Kyle is definitely the future of the Federation.
Step away, fish stick!
You're a gay fish.
But it would seem that Sam has now officially crossed into violent drunk territory as she channels her inner Goku and instant transmissions over to the fight.
Bar fight! Just like Sisko!
Punching Fivehead right out of the building. Which unfortunately stops Caleb and Tarima from copulating because we gotta keep the will they won't they story going at all costs. Though it did take some intestinal fortitude for Fivehead to try and fight an individual who can literally turn incorporeal and not get hit. They missed a golden opportunity to really use that in this scene. The cadets are now in medbay where EMH isn't exactly happy with any of them.
Let me guess. I should see the other guy.
But particularly pissed at Drumsticks.
I didn't expect this from you.
I did it to solve the mystery of Captain Sisko.
EMH mentions that even though he didn't personally know Ben Sisko, he knew many others who did, including his son Jake. Sam really wants to understand how he dealt with the loss of his father, to which EMH explains how you deal with anything, accept it and move on. You can tell that Robert Picardo really loves this character, and even though he finds himself in this shit show of a production, he's still giving it his all in every scene. This particular one has some real raw emotion and is guaranteed to hit every person watching close to home, as no matter who you are, in some way, shape, or form, you've experienced something similar. Who knows, maybe this is a turning point for the series and they're going to start showing the serious side of things.
If you'd like to see some of the oldest and most majestic trees on Earth, be at the transfer arches at 0600 hours tomorrow morning for some morning wood.
Never mind. Nala goes to meet with Kelrick on the shuttle as he departs to meet with the Alpharettis, which really sounds like an Italian restaurant. She thanks him for restoring the power, and he states that just because she's a filthy deserter who doesn't keep her word doesn't mean he won't keep his. Also, since it's been an entire episode since we've seen her feet, guess what? What are the Vegas odds on Alex Kurtzman having both a foot and geriatric fetish? Kelrick would just like to take this trip in silence, but unless he brought a ball gag with him, that's highly unlikely. Nala states that she can understand why Kelrick is the way he is, since he operated within a time of absolutes. But that era is over, and that if he keeps trying to judge people that way, no one will trust him. This bitch! Didn't you trick him to get information so your students could infect his campus with an endangered species he can't move by law? What gives you the moral high ground on the subject? If anything, his black and white approach makes him the most trustworthy person around. But of course he just gives in and laughs at himself for being terrible at the clarinet, trumpet, what the fuck was that thing? Sam finds Professor Isla and admits defeat, where she is congratulated on her failure, because like success, it can be fun. Which is a phrase no one has ever used before. Necessary? Yes. A learning experience? Definitely. A wake-up call? Sure. But no one has ever enjoyed failing.
You're a great loser, Arthur.
Sam explains that it doesn't matter if he lived or died because Sisko didn't get to live the life that he wanted. His entire existence was planned for him. And now she believes that being an emissary absolutely sucks. But I mean, it's really dependent on your assignment. I'm sure the emissary to the big titty nymphomaniac planet is happy with his life. Isla gives her a gift for her failure, a copy of Jake's biography about Ben. In fact, the only copy, as it was never published. As she reads it, she either imagines or projects Jake in front of her. It's not really clear as to what the hell's actually happening here. And why would we want silly details like that when we could spend 3 whole ass scenes preparing for a dinner with worm people we never get to see? She finally gets the answer she's really been looking for about how Ben was consistently torn between duty and aspiration. Examples such as purchasing land to build a home but never getting around to it because of his obligations. But that he didn't always let what he was being told stop him from making his own choices like marrying Cassidy, even though he was warned it would lead to nothing but sorrow. This makes Sam question if she's even capable of being an emissary because of the required sacrifices. But Jake instills belief in her by explaining that despite all of the shortcomings and unfinished business, his father never truly left them. Something he can't explain, but he just knows. She thanks Jake for his time and the fact that he wrote the book before closing it and ending whatever the fuck this just was. Returning to Isla, Sam is asked if she found what she was looking for. But Drumsticks really just wants to know how Isla even got that book.
Isla isn't a surname, is it?
You're a good detective. I expect to see you in my class next year. Find it in the course catalog under my full name, Isla Dax.
Like the Dax?
Wait a minute! You're telling me that this bitch who looks like she barely survived a house fire is Dax? Seriously? Okay, first of all, I really hate this style of writing where something as stupid simple as a name being hidden is treated like a gigantic reveal. It's lazy and just isn't how people interact. We were just told that you can look up Isla's name in the directory, in this very scene, and Sam supposedly researched everything about this class yet didn't bother to see who taught it. Secondly, I'm sure this actress is great looking when not under a ton of Kardashian and Trill makeup, but I distinctly recall most of the female hosts of the symbiote being pretty hot. Call me greedy, but I would like to see that trend continued. Anyway, Drumsticks finally finds the words to tell the makers about the mission, and those are that it's gonna take time to explain organics. Which is what was said earlier, and they didn't give a shit then. Why would they now?
Fuck if I know.
She says that people are complex and unpredictable, and that they're just gonna have to trust her, bro. She got this. And then, if as predicted by a mediocre analyst from New Jersey, she is shown playing the theme song on a theremin, followed by a quick voiceover about everything we just watched for nearly an hour.
My music teacher once asked me why I chose to learn the theremin. It has no strings, no keys, but it creates its own unique kind of music.
Until it switches to a much better version from Ben Sisko.
Divine laws are simpler than human ones.
Holy shit, did this one kick my ass. Are you living a double life? By day, a responsible adult with many important things to do, but once the sun sets, a degenerate alcoholic who would sell his house, car, or kidney just to get his hands on another bottle of booze? Unfortunately for you, though, it's another late night at the office that's keeping you from your real passion. Well, new from DH Distilleries, say hello to Insta-Drunk, the first direct bloodstream alcohol patch that helps you catch up to everyone down at the bar in record time. Just slap a few of these bad boys on in the parking lot, the bar parking lot, not your office, and you'll be absolutely plastered before you know it. Why did we design this, you ask? Well, after thorough investigation involving enema bags and bottles of vodka, we determined that there must have been a better, less anally invasive way to experience an entire night of drinking in a few minutes. So we made this bullshit up on the spot. How does it work? Who gives a shit? All that matters is that it does. So head on down to your local liquor store, pharmacy, or Trekkie trauma support group and pick up a pack of Insta-Drunk today. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I really considered abandoning ship after those last two because I was so drained. And after realizing that we had a whole nother one to go, I wasn't sure I had it left in me. But that would be taking the easy way out, and fuck that shit. Speaking of draining, this episode opens up with all of that tension finally being relieved. After getting about 6 or 7 money shots deep, man I miss my 20s, Tarima feels that this is the proper time to create some sort of weird flower world in Caleb's brain. But seeing as how he's not quite ready for anything besides boning, he gets pissed when she stumbles upon the bear from episode 1, triggering his repressed memories. Despite being the one who's completely in the wrong for manipulatively mind-graping the guy, Tarima is the one who takes offense, says no to session 8 and walks away. Bitch! You know, one of these days, women in Hollywood productions will understand accountability, but clearly today is not that day. On the subject of women with no accountability, the Athena drops out of warp as Nala explains that they've arrived at a ship graveyard.
No shit.
Something tells me that we could have figured that out for ourselves, what with the broken dead ships.
War College and Starfleet Academy will work together in a joint training exercise. We will be using that ship, the USS Miyazaki.
So how exactly do they intend to use this long-dead Japanese animator? Federation starship. Well, for a crisis drill, with one team of cadets entering the ship and another coordinating from the bridge of the Athena. The goals being to first reactivate the life support system and then restart the ship's computer. Oh, and it will be a joint mission involving Starfleet Academy and War College. Once again making us question as to why both exist as separate entities. Chancellor Kelrick gives them a briefing about how in the 5-year existence of the exercise, no team has ever scored above 65%. Which is funny because there's two goals. You'd assume that accomplishing one would be 50% and both would be 100. But seeing as how we haven't seen them take a basic math course since the start of the show, we can just assume they don't understand how percentages work.
Set phasers to dumb, right?
Caleb will be heading up the insertion team, which as we established at the beginning of the episode, he's very experienced at. Along with him will be Sam, Jaden Smith, Kyle the Magnificent, and the Vulcan from War College who finally receives a name, Bavi, who is really familiar with the fate of the USS Castle of Cagliostro because he grew up reading comics about it. Ones that Supervising Officer Tomov is also a fan of.
I would have followed Captain Chi anywhere.
Though, not everyone agrees.
Federation propaganda. Feel-good colonizing bullshit.
First of all, fuck off, dude. Every time you get the slightest bit better in this show, you immediately turn around and become an unlikable prick again. Secondly, didn't you say this, you hypocritical piece of shit?
Stardate 2314, the USS Origin saves the Lin species from extinction via relocation.
Tomov believes so hard in this team that he's actually wagered his shore leave that they will be the first ones to fully restore the USS Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind. I guess he really didn't bother to look at them before making that bet. He also doubled down that they could restore the life support system in under 2 minutes. He may actually have a serious gambling problem. It would explain why just a few moments ago he said this.
Don't let me down. I haven't been off this ship in 6 months.
Call 1-800-GAMBLER. We can help.
I guess luckily for him he has Rayla with some of that programmable matter bullshit to make that happen. Much to the chagrin of Lura, who is on the losing end of this particular parlay.
Now I'm grumpy.
What else is new, you rug muncher? Darren mentions that they are getting some strange readings and that the USS My Neighbor Totoro is being boarded, but also that the Athena's signal is blocked so the cadets can't be beamed back. Soon after this, they are hailed by Enduo Skra, leader of the Furies, who claims the wreck in the name of being ugly or some shit. He lets them know that they have taken the cadets hostage and unless the Athena is out of the area soon, they'll eat Caleb.
Do it.
I really hope they're not expecting virgin meat, cause this dude fucks. After going on high alert, EMH informs the other cadets, including Akam and Tarima, that the exercise has been suspended. Nala calls a meeting with Kelrick and Vance to try and figure out what to do.
Furies have a nasty habit of killing their hostages even after their demands are met. I have 5 capital ships waiting to jump to warp 1 light year from your position.
But Vance, being the only one without a personal connection to the situation, of course comes up with the most insane idea.
Oh, that it sticks in my craw, and I'm loath to even say it. The Furies have had a few dust-ups with the Venari Raul. The man responsible for getting rid of them is our old friend.
That idea may just be crazy enough to get us all killed!
Kelrick assures them that Tomov will keep the cadets safe because I guess he's invincible or something. Meanwhile, back on the USS Kiki's delivery service, they continue to be held ransom. Even Sam, who never seems to remember she's not actually a real person and can become intangible. Not to mention fucking teleport. The Furies say they plan to show that they mean business by ejecting someone out of the airlock.
Also, I guess I'll kill one of you, him.
They pick Bavi, but before they could go through with the plan, Tomov, who is not about to lose this fucking bet, gives the signal, and everyone except Jaden Smith becomes a goddamn UFC champion out of nowhere. In order to preserve the over-under, Tomov makes a heroic sacrifice, allowing the cadets to get the fuck out of Dodge. They escape to the bridge, which was basically the next room over, and lock the door behind themselves as they try to contact the Athena. But because the USS Princess Mononoke's comms are still down, they have no luck. And worse yet, Kyle is injured. Jaden mentions to him that it will scar, but Kyle, as usual, is cool as the other side of the pillow.
It's a soldier without a few scars.
Are you sure you are not part Klingon?
You can almost tell that the original line was, "Do you have a little Klingon in you? Do you want some?" But the word assemblers didn't pull the trigger on it. Next, they literally use Bavi to rip off Spock.
A famous officer once said, "The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few." Or the one.
At least they gave the line to a Vulcan. It's not good, but it's slightly more digestible, I guess. But we all know the real reason Tomov sacrificed himself is because he's too much of a man's man. He's out here gambling, he's likely a drunk, frequenting brothels when he actually has some goddamn shore leave. We can't be having a badass like that in this fucking show. The Furies find the cadets no problem, considering there was really only one place for them to go. Caleb attempts to turn on the ship's computer, but it's non-responsive. Maybe he should just take his shirt off. Instead, though, Drumstick starts fondling it in hopes that that will work. On the Athena, Thok tells Nala that someone has been spirited away from the airlock, and it's Tomov. So she's off the hook for her debts. That hefty-ass retard who ate her comm badge in the first episode begins freaking out, so they take her to the med bay, or perhaps the mess hall, to binge-eat more technology. Because of the revelation of Tomov's fate, Nala agrees to meet with Noose, which means we're getting Giamatti'd.
My space boo, my solar flame, my interstellar bestie. How the hills are alive with the sound of murder.
He wastes absolutely no time becoming my spirit animal by sampling the nectar of the gods.
Oh, that is a slippery cat piss aftertaste.
I think that's every añejo certified by the Court of Galactic Sommeliers.
Sommeliers? Get that French shit out of here and use the proper fucking terms.
I am not drinking any fucking Merlot!
It's Catador or Mistro Tequilero. Vance begrudgingly thanks Noose for his help, the latter not exactly showing much in the way of sympathy.
Sorry, Mom and Dad, but we left your kids in the shredder.
Vance tries to steer this clearly off the rails conversation, but Noose just brings up that the Furies aren't exactly people you can reason with because they only enjoy spreading pain. Vance then attempts to intimidate him, but it fails and Noose lays out his terms.
Stop supplying dilithium to Tejeda 1.
The Admiral then leaves with his tail between his legs to try and fulfill the Federation's end of the bargain, leaving Noose and Nala alone.
Alone at last. I have been thinking a lot about you.
I haven't thought about you at all.
Maybe you should. That first day you sent me off to prison. High and mighty. Why don't we just see if we can't start over by having a conversation? I don't care about your problems. I don't care about dead cadets. Your job is to figure out what I do care about. Sit your ass in that chair until I tell you to get up.
On the bridge, Eyebrows has been able to identify the Fury signal but can't narrow down where its origin point is. But if she can locate it, they will be able to counter-scramble the signal and beam the cadets back on board. So it's really simple, they just need to find a section of space that's approximately the same size as the Fury's ship that has nothing in it. Because as we all know, those are incredibly rare. And they better get a fucking move on because the Furies are cutting through the door as they speak. Sam is still trying to get the system to respond, but its memory is locked in the past trying to save the original crew. It's here that Bobby comes up with an actual brilliant idea to upload its comics into the computer's record, updating its history and allowing them to be declared the new crew just in time to seal the bridge. Not really sure why this dude brought his collection with him, but who'd have thunk that comics could save the day? Now if only we could get some good writers back on those shits. Caleb hears Tarima in his head, but she's unable to maintain contact for long until she snapped back to her body. This causes her to be yet another person in this show to have a panic attack as she believes they're gonna die.
They don't know what to do.
Okay.
Back in the captain's quarters, Noose lets us in on some interesting background of Nala's.
I don't know how you do it. Look after all these kids when you lost a kid yourself.
Time heals all, Braca.
How much you want to bet her son is going to end up being the big bad of this series? She then gets requested on the bridge and just gets up and walks away. So much for that not being allowed to leave the chair bullshit. Honestly, if the other interactions were written in the same way, we might actually have a decent show on our hands. Tarima tells Nala that the cadets have successfully locked themselves in the bridge, and that even though the comms are still down, she used her connection to Caleb to communicate, but her inhibitor chip is making it difficult. By the way, why the fuck does she even need that thing?
Look, Betazoids are Betazoids. You know, we sense stuff. But Tarima's, she's special.
I did damage.
It was an accident.
Kelrick comes up with an alternative strategy of having the cadets reactivate the singularity drive to cause a disruption allowing them to be retrieved. But in order to do that, they need to get to the engineering bay, which Tarima doesn't believe they can do. Back on the USS Ponyo, the computer is taking for fucking ever to read the comics. And also somehow it's having an existential crisis. Until Sam screams at it, causing the force field to come up. Because apparently that's how computers work. They prep Tarima by disabling the inhibitor so she can go back into Caleb's head and give him the instructions as EMH is monitoring. Kelrick asks what's up with Noose. Nala can't quite put her finger on it, but something's off about him. She then returns to him to confirm the Federation's intent to meet his demands. But being the good scumbag that he is, he continues pushing for more. It's here that Nala figures out that he's stalling because he too fears the Furies, and his true intention is to turn his enemies against each other. She then plays an Uno reverse card on him to get the info that she needs.
Their inner ears are particularly sensitive to high sonic frequencies.
You'd think that in the hundreds of years that the Federation's been dealing with these ugly fuckers, they would have figured this shit out. And wouldn't you know it, the nearby starbase J-19 Alpha just happens to test new weapons and can modify ships to create disruptive sonic beams.
You're kidding, what a crazy random happenstance. Here.
Also, according to Vance, they can get this shit done in as little as 30 minutes. Who the fuck funded this starbase? Domino's? Well, whether or not the operation is being run by shitty chain pizza is of no consequence, as it will give them a window of only a few seconds to get the boy and his heron off of the USS Laputa Castle in the sky. And if that doesn't work, they'll turn back to Operation Hormonal Extraction using Terima. Lura is tracking Noose as he leaves, trying to decipher his transmissions. And Nala tells EMH to send Terima in, meaning that they went right to Plan B, which everyone knows should not be used as a primary form of birth control. Back on the USS Howell's moving castle, holy shit, Miyazaki had an obsession with castles. The Furies have disabled the force field as Terima tells Caleb the plan.
Once you do, tell Bobby to run tiny fireflies.
Weird name for a military program, but whatever. The biggest issue is how the fuck are they even gonna get to engineering? Since it worked the first time, Caleb figures screw it and just yells at the computer, since that's clearly its kink. Jaden wonders how Caleb even knows what needs to be done, as the latter explains that he and Terima are mentally linked. So Jaden now knows that these two fuck. The computer gives them access to the main engineering portal, and Caleb tells Bobby the tiny fireflies thing. The Athena has had no luck finding the Fury ship, as in Eyebrow's words, it's like finding a needle inside of a haystack made of needles. But sheer dumbass luck prevails as they just happen onto an anomaly in the debris field, just as the USS Sargasso is arriving with their supersonic pizza. But Nala hasn't fulfilled her quota of a single non-brain-dead moment this episode and figures out that this is all too convenient.
What do you know about J-19 Alpha?
But with the window quickly closing, they have no time to discuss this as they need to prepare to grab the cadets. On the USS The Wind Rises, Caleb and Bobby are working together to bring the drive online, when Caleb stops being a hipster and reveals that he actually did read the same comics. I guess someone tossed them in the dumpster he used to eat out of. Kelrick informs the bridge that the Sargasso will arrive in 30 seconds, but there's still no response from the Fury's vessel, and the reason for that is because...
It's a trap!
A Venari roll ship decloaks and attacks the Sargasso, completely disabling it in one shot. Because of all the experimental military technology they're developing at J-19 Alpha, shields must be on the low end of the priority list. Nala tells EMH, who then tells Terima to tell Caleb to start the drive. There is a lot of unnecessary calls in that chain. Despite the ill-timed game of telephone, the drive comes online just as the Furies break through the shield. But sum the fuck how Sam is shot even though we were explicitly shown she can't be already. Terima begins having a seizure because like a retard she ripped the inhibitor chip out of her neck for no apparent reason since EMH said they disabled it. The Furies continue to shoot the place up, but of all the people who can and probably should die in this scene, the only one who does is Bobby. Terima pulls Caleb into her mind and recreates the scene from the end of Stranger Things, where she basically tells Caleb that she needs to go away, but at least he'll be alive. Though her version of going away is going into a coma. Bitch gets to take a nap after this. To stop the Fury's onslaught, she becomes fucking Black Bolt out of nowhere and uses a hypersonic scream. Because remember, the Furies can't handle loud noises. We'll just ignore that human eardrums can also burst from excessive decibels. Even though she saved the day, the damage is done. Bobby is dead, Sam is glitching, and Kyle has a scraped knee, which is completely unacceptable. But the worst actually happened away from the USS Porco Rosso.
6 Venari Rawl ships, decloaked and attacked.
It was all a ploy, a trick by that dastardly yet entertaining Noose Braca, who is now officially the most wanted man in the quadrant. Vance orders the Athena to return to San Francisco, where an army of grief counselors await. As the aftermath is sorted and everyone tries to process what the fuck just happened, Noose sends a message to Nala.
Feel free to trace this transmission while your Federation friends count body bags. I hate you. Hating you made me better at my job. Because you think your way of life is better than mine. And that gives you the right to infect the entire universe with the Federation's own special strain of bureaucratic chlamydia. And anyone who dares disagree with you is, your word, a lowlife. Fortunately, you know, all that hate opened doors in my mind. You sent your kid to his death to save many. You got your kid back and everyone else died. How's that for a trauma loop? My gift to you. You have no idea what a difference you've made in my life. Because you're the best teacher I ever had.
The episode ends with Nala sulking, clearly blaming herself, as she should. But like clockwork, Vance white knights his way into the conversation and puts it all on himself, because no matter what happens, it's never this bitch's fault.
It's not your fault.
I know. You know, it feels really strange getting an episode done in a decent amount of time for a change. It really highlights one of the primary issues with this series. If pacing for the first 3 episodes was trash, the subsequent 3 are a full-on landfill. 2 of them are insane exposition dumps that primarily consist of one topic being discussed 20 times with very little variety, which makes the hour feel like an eternity. We're so checked out by monotony and tedium that by the time the latest episode dropped, the slightest bit of action felt like an oasis in a desert of idiotic boredom, making that one feel like it was on 1.5 speed by comparison. It really sucks because I can say with impunity that episode 6 was far and away the best of this show so far. When I finally paused it to take some notes, it was already more than a third over, which was shocking, meaning that not only did it take that long to find enough worth stopping for, but that I was also somehow enjoying it enough to not be hyper-focused on the time. Perhaps if the rest of the show followed suit, it wouldn't be such of a mess. It likely still wouldn't be considered good Star Trek, but at least it wouldn't be such an insulting slog. With multiple episodes that are based around specific people, one could call this the characterization block of the season. But unfortunately for us, the ones they selected were by far the 2 worst in the series. Jaden is supposed to represent a being torn between 2 worlds type of storyline, similar to so many we've seen over the years, with some of the greatest examples coming from within Star Trek itself. Usually this is the perfect way to play off of a fish out of water, or individual who represents 2 different cultures trying to stay true to themselves. But if you were to go back and check successful applications of this narrative device, you'll probably notice a few common denominators. Those being that the characters have been established, and we've already seen instances of internal struggles from them. With Jaden, not only were neither of those present, we knew fuck all about him since he'd barely appeared on screen up to that point. As a byproduct, it makes the entire thing just an introductory justification for his existence on the cast, rather than a definitive character arc that's been built up and supported by key moments. It also doesn't help that his story takes one of the most well-known and popular species in science fiction history, only to cherry-pick which aspects of them apply, ignoring the rest, adding to the general afterthought feel of it all. It's almost as though they designed the character before picking what race he was gonna be, and just shoved a square peg into a round hole. Which, going based on what we know about him so far, he'd actually probably enjoy. Also, for the sake of the actor, I really hope they're synthesizing his voice, because if not, his vocal cords are fucked.
I do not know what Klingon I am.
Nearly everything I just said applies to this next individual as well, but somehow it's even worse. Series Acclamation Mill might be the single worst character ever created in the century-plus existence of television. She's repetitive, irritating, and because of a combination of crappy costume design, horrible camera angles, and really bad lifestyle choices by the actress, she's unpleasant to even look at. Since The Next Generation, pretty much every series in the franchise has had some type of inorganic crew member, often serving as the logical expository character who, while generally quirky, has never been considered annoying. Hell, one of them is even in this show. But Sam seems to be the exact opposite of all of that. All nuisance with no nuance. We're told she's hyper-intelligent and can learn anything in the blink of an eye, yet she's consistently dumbfounded by simple concepts. Her mission is to acclimate, but she does everything in her power to stand out. Which is frustrating because as a concept, a hologram observation software designed to map human behavior is a really cool idea. It's just not being used correctly. They could have kept what she actually is hidden until her origin episode, having her blend in up to that point and subtly observe organics in a way that when it's finally revealed it all clicks for the audience. This also could have led to tension as characters became aware that they were being spied on, with Sam not understanding why it's a big deal but no one trusting her anymore. It's a shame that such an interesting idea is completely wasted.
1, 2, 3.
Despite the extreme shortcomings of the primary cast, this show isn't completely devoid of people who give a shit. Several of the supporting and minor roles, believe it or not, are turning in some solid work. I've already mentioned how Robert Picardo is not letting his surroundings kill his zeal for EMH, and let's not forget about the national treasure that is Kyle. But there's one guy who is clearly head and shoulders above the rest.
Oh, my interstellar bestie.
Paul Giamatti is crushing it as Noose Braca. The performance is over the top in the best possible way. And it's not even a debate as to whether or not his negotiation scenes from the 6th episode are unrivaled up to this point in the show. In fact, they're so much better than everything else around them that if you told me they were secretly written by a ghostwriter who didn't want his name attached to this steamy coiler, I'd believe you. It's possible this is just a case of less is more in regards to him, but you can't deny that the scenes that revolve around Noose Braca are pretty much the only ones worth watching.
Always fold upon itself like an origami chicken.
Well, most of them at least. I started this video wondering exactly who this was made for, and over the course of the last hour or so, I'm pretty sure I figured it out. Star Trek has always appealed to a wide array of people, but there's one special interest group that inclusion is never the goal: radical feminists. All of the telltale signs have been right in front of our eyes from the start. You can't pick a single female character that doesn't have one of the following words in their description: smug, obese, or lesbian. And no matter who they are, everyone is obsessed with them, will bend over backwards, and not a one is ever held accountable. Even the one who's supposed to be the hot chick is just kind of average. But in comparison to everything else around her, she's a 10. On the flip side, all of the men are in great shape or gay. And no matter what their title, they adhere to the will of the women in the scene. This show is the feminist pipe dream that bitter, angry women have envisioned for the future of Star Trek, simply because they don't want you to have nice things. And if that doesn't convince you that Star Trek is officially fully submerged in the modern Hollywood agenda, I don't know what to tell you.